Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 3 of my videos here. Um, it's okay, today we're going to continue with Return of the Jedi. Like I said, I'm going to tell you the last couple of recollections or things about my past with it, and then we'll move on to the toys, a little more specific. Um, well, the first thing I just wanted to cover, I think we covered everything yesterday on going to see the movie, my kind of experience with it, some other products outside of the action figures. um, I will start off by saying that I know it's the 40th anniversary, and I know Jedi was out in the theaters, and I assume they were out near me, but I kind of refused to go see it because I can't stand the special editions. I couldn't stand them since the time they first came out. I still can't stand them today. Um, I think, as far as Jedi goes, probably the first thing that comes to mind that destroys it for me is the Jabba the Hutt scene with the Max Rebo and the Sice Noodles band. I hate the new song. I hate the little dumb character that they added into it. I mean, as outrageous as Sice Noodles with the crazy mouth, at the end of the snout, and, Max Rebo and Droopy McCool, as weird as they look, they don't look like Pixar-y, or they don't, well, I know because of the CG, but I mean, they don't look like dumb little characters. They just look like weird aliens, to me, anyways. They're still believable in that universe. That little guy who plays the thing in the special editions totally takes me out of it. I don't mind the three girls, the dancing girls. In fact, actually, when that came out, I was at a convention and I got to meet the red-haired one. I can't remember what her name was. Very, very attractive girl. But I met her. So, I mean, in that regard, I was a little like, I kind of like her. The other two, the Rodian and the Twi'lek. Rodian's okay, and what can you do with the Rodian head? But the Twi'lek, I don't know. She wasn't really. She wasn't Ula quality. Let's just put it that way. But I didn't mind them. I mean, at least they were live actresses in costumes, and they fit to the world. They weren't CG anything weird. Outside of that, I think the music itself is just being changed. I wasn't used to that. Again, remember, I mean, I listened to that audio cassette so many times, and I'm so used to that background music and the, I'm not going to try to sing it, but I mean, that music from the original Jedi, I mean, it's haunting. It doesn't sound whimsical. It sounds haunting. It's creepy. And the new music doesn't sound creepy. It sounds whimsical and, So, again, I mean, that was probably the most blatant thing for me personally. I didn't like the little mouth coming out of the Sarlacc. I thought that was dumb. I mean, I was so fixated, on the teeth and the side and the whole way it used to look, that beak thing it looked too Dune to me. And, Star Wars borrowing so many, or at least seemingly borrowing so many things from Dune, it seems like that made it extra Dune-y, and I didn't like that. What else was in that movie that bothered me? I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Like I said, I haven't seen it that many times because I kind of refuse to watch it. I don't have it on videocassette anymore, obviously. I had it on a BSAF videotape, VHS, that I taped off of Showtime or Cinemax back in like 1986, or whenever they first aired it on cable television. And I had that same videotape for the longest time. That was my only copy. I don't even think I ever went and bought a store copy of Jedi, or any of the movies, for that matter. I think I had them all on VHS, taped off of cable. And that's the tape I wore out, was watching that videotape so many times. And I would say, honestly, without exaggerating, I probably saw Return of the Jedi in any variation, whether it's the movie theater, videotape, DVD, special edition even, um, at least 2,000 times in my life, easily. And that's not an exaggeration. The only other movie I think I've watched as much is maybe Aliens. Um, I mean, there's certain movies like Aliens, this in particular because it comes to mind, that you know the movie so well that you know exactly when that one bar ding, 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 comes out after the explosion. You don't even have to be watching it. You'd be sitting there drawing or doing something else, and you hear in the background, you hear the explosion, and you know you're going to hear that ding, 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 ding. I mean, that's how you know you've seen a movie way too many times. And there's lots of, I can't recall every possible little nuance like that, but there are so many things in Jedi alone that I could pick out just the tiniest little details. And because I can pick out so many details, when you see a special edition, it totally jars you. You're like, I don't like this. I'm out of my comfort zone. I know every little minutia, and now I don't. And I don't care to go relearn that minutia again, I mean, it sounds goofy, but I mean, that's just the way I am with that movie, and a lot of movies. The last thing I want to kind of leave off on before we hit the toys is, so me growing up, I said 1983, my parents were divorced. That summer of 83, I spent a lot of time at my dad's, which my dad still lived in the family house at the time. My mom is the one who moved out during the divorce. And so I still had my room. Everything, for the most part, physically in the house was the same. My dad didn't do as well housekeeping as my mother, which I had to kind of pick up that slack and learn that at an early age. But anyways, I don't want to talk about my parents' divorce. But I was still there. I still had my bike. I still knew the neighborhood. I still had most of the neighborhood friends were relatively the same. A couple people moved. I mean, they would have moved in and out of the neighborhood regardless if my parents were together or not. But one of the things that we had just down the street, you went down the street, turned left down, I can't remember, Drace? I can't remember what the name of the road was. Our street was Winry, and you went down, and there was a place called Dinosaur Hill. You can look it up online if you want to on Google Maps. I think it's still there. I took my son to it about 3 or 4 years ago just for nostalgic sake. It hasn't really changed much. They built a new... When I was a kid, and yeah, at that time, they had a little like nature preserve center. That was a very small building. That was new-ish, right around 83, I think 82 they might have built it. But once you get past that thing, you go into this trail, and it's called Dinosaur Hill. The reason they call it Dinosaur Hill is because obviously, the kids love dinosaurs, so let's play that theme up. But also because the main hill in it, if you walk the trail, had like a gradual increase and decline. Let's do it this way, like that. And it looked like a sleeping dinosaur. Like there was a dinosaur, and it's called Dinosaur Hill. It was all forested. Had a river that ran through the middle of it with a bridge. There was a train. That river went to another spot where the train tracks were, and they had a train bridge. And the to and from between there, in a more open area, they had a fern. They called it a fern meadow. And the sun kind of came in very with ferns everywhere. But the rest of it was regular forest. And like I said, you could go along the river on the trail, and you could go up the hill, come back down the hill, and you end up back at another parking lot. Actually, I think the main parking lot for it, which is like a 6-car parking lot with a dumpster. But the thing is, to me, and especially in '83, that was my Endor. And I, like I was saying yesterday, your BMX bike was your speeder bike. And at the time, I think I had a Mongoose. I don't think I had a Predator yet. No Predators were out till '84. But I had a Mongoose. Everybody had a Mongoose. Mongooses were like the typical BMX bike. I mean, I had a Huffy before that. My parents bought it at Kmart or wherever. But the Huffy and the Mongoose kind of were interchangeable. They all had the handlebars that, back in the 80s, if you're a burnout, you'd push them forward. You get the laid back seat post, which I don't think that bike had a laid back seat post. Chrome bike, mag wheels, really heavy bike too. For jumping purposes, it's not the bike you want to use, but it was a tank. It was a beast. I mean, I really put it through the ringer. So one of the things that we'd do is you'd be on this cool silver bike and you'd be racing through at breakneck speed, as George Lucas would say. You were racing through the trail. Usually there wasn't a lot of people in there, if anybody at all, so you didn't have to worry about running into anybody. And every morning, in the summer of '83, you could ride your bike down there, which would take all of 2 minutes. It's literally at the end of the street, and tear through the Dinosaur Hill like you're in Endor a few times just to get yourself moving in the morning. As a kid, and relive that scene. That was, you had to use your imagination. I didn't have a $10,000 cosplay costume on, I didn't have, movie accurate replica props. I had a BMX bike, and I had me in a pair of shorts and knee-high socks, and a t-shirt, and that you were a biker scout, or you were Luke on a speeder bike, and away you'd go. So I just wanted to bring that up. Also, in my front yard, I used a lot. I used the, they've just recently come out with a bunker for the vintage scales action figures, which I do not have and probably won't get unless it goes on clearance, just because I never had it as a kid. And I don't like to get things that I didn't have as a kid. And but at the same time, as a kid, I spent so much time and effort trying to make a bunker out of a shoebox, paint it, and detail it up. And I put a lot of work into these things. I kind of have some pride into my old, even though they're long gone. I have some pride in that, and just buying a hunk of plastic for $40 or $50, and just like, I don't need it. But like again, if I get it cheap, I might buy it. But the thing is, I made the bunker. I set up my Ewok village. I take that back. I only set the Ewok village up a couple of times because I didn't get it till Christmas. But in the summer before that came out, I had to make an Ewok village. And the easiest way to do that was to go through the yard or go through the woods, Dinosaur Hill, and collect. I used to take an action figure with me, and I'd grab a stick or log or a downed tree, and I'd look at the wood and I'd compare it to the figure. I go, it's about the size of a redwood. Okay, take that one with me. Take it back home, take it into the garage, take the wood saw and cut it apart, so it would stand about yay high. And then the rest of it I could take leaves and stuff, and I had this one tree had smaller leaves, so it looked more to scale. And then I would take that and I would tie them like little twist ties and little pieces of string, and kind of make some trees out of them. And I'd put them, and I'd take a hammer and I'd bang them into the ground. My dad would always get angry at me. What are you doing? Don't worry, Dad. It'll be fine. You won't even notice it. And I had this one spot that I kind of made myself Endor forest. It was kind of under a tree too, so you kind of had the canopy of the one tree to kind of shade it a little bit. So in the middle of August, you weren't sweating your brains out there playing with it. And it was kind of in a not disturbed area too. And I kind of made up my own little thing, and I had my bunker, which I would take in because of the rain and stuff. I'd take most of the stuff that wouldn't perish out there, and I'd have to come and rebuild it various times just because things got blown over and whatnot. But I made that in my yard, and I'd take all my figures out there. I had an ATST, that I'm doing that because of the little button on it, make them walk, tick, 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 tick. And he'd go through there, and I would, reenact those scenes. And then in my backyard, we had a sandbox, which I didn't use for the longest time. I did when we first moved in there. We moved in there literally in '78, my kindergarten year. And it's funny that because I lost my original Han Solo, which had not the monkey-headed one, but the good-looking Han Solo head. I had lost him for the longest time. I had no idea where he was at. it wasn't until Jedi came out that I started using that sandbox again. We also had a cat before, and I didn't like using the sandbox because of cats, if you know what I mean. They don't. Cats and sandboxes don't mix very well. But the sandbox was relatively clean, and I cleaned it out, and I was digging. I dig in the middle, and I dug and I dug and dug because I put a coffee can down there to catch my action figures, and I made a Sarlacc pit, you know. And I took. I think I had a. The closest thing I had was I had a little bag of shark teeth that somebody had got me as a gift. And I took the shark teeth out of the bag and I put the shark teeth around in the sand. I collected them and put them back in the bag when it was done, so I didn't lose them. You know, and I'd make myself the skiff. And all I had for a skiff was, I think I literally had the top of a shoebox at one time. I think I had a piece of flat wood that I used at one time that looked kind of skiffish, if that makes sense. But I had various things I'd use as a skiff, and I would either stick it into the sand or I would put, I'd stretch it across the bracket of the sandbox, and I put my guys on there, and Luke and, Weekway and all the other guys, and Lando and Skiffguard, Han and Chewie, and I would reenact the sand. I'd just, they'd go one at a time, just like in the movie, because I'd memorized it. They'd all go in the pit, and then, and you have the coffee can. You just pull the coffee can out when you're done, empty your figures out, spray them off the garden hose, and put the can back in there. Do it again the next day, or whenever you wanted to get back to doing that. And that was my Sarlacc pit. So those are my 3 Star Wars go-to essentially places. Oh, take it one more back. When the Jabba the Hutt playset came out, they also had these. I'm sorry, the other day I said Revell on the model kits. I'm wrong. They were Monogram, but Monogram and Revell merged shortly thereafter. That's why I get them confused. I just call them Revell all the time, but Revell and Monogram are the same company, but at that time they weren't. So Monogram was the actual one who put out those models. But they also put out this Jabba the Hutt, Jabba's Palace scene, and I had it. I never got around to painting it because it was a lot of work. But I had it, and I kind of played with it periodically, but the people were so tiny. But what I did is I used it as a point of reference, and I took a cardboard box, because cardboard boxes already have that kind of sandstone look because of the corrugated cardboard and the color. You found a cardboard didn't have, UPS markings on it and stickers all over it and tape. You got someone who's relatively clean, and then they had to, you touch it up a bit. If I was a little older and I knew what I knew about modeling eventually, like in my teen years, I probably would have misted it with something to give it kind of a weathered look. But, this is when I was 10, so my model building skills weren't that great back then. I could make things, but not with those techniques. And so I took my my Jabba the playset, and I put them in there, kind of marked it off where it would be, and then I would make things. And I took the cards, those cards I was talking about, I had all my doubles, and I took my doubles and my cards, and there were some scenes from the movies, and what I do is I'd cut them with little arches, cut the old doubles, and I would glue them into spots so that when you got down at the carpet, in the living room, and you looked in your little area, put your guys in there, you could see little scenes and stuff. And I did that, and I had a Polaroid camera at the time, and I actually took the Polaroid in there like a movie camera, and I was shooting like scenes and stuff. I wish I had those, still had those are long gone, but I was shooting little scenes, and I was kind of, working on, making the best kind of compositions and stuff. So my creative brain was already working overtime with that. But that's the other thing it is. I made the Jabba's Palace thing, and it morphed over time. I started over, scratched it, built a new one. But I also had that. So those are if I was playing by myself, or even if I had a friend over, usually my primary Star Wars, or specifically Return of the Jedi play situations. Alright, so let's get to the toys. First thing, well, since we're talking about speeder bikes and I have it out, this is the vintage speeder bike that I don't know if it just came out. It might. I don't know if it's a repaint from an old one. I'm not sure. But it's the one that's currently out. That was part of the 40th edition. The biker scout himself, I still have in the package. He's up on the wall. I just put him there for now. Still have the box, of course. And again, just like the G.I. Joe box, I love the box art. Even though this isn't the original one, it still has all the original, design cues. So, I really like it. However, that said, I don't like the bike itself. It's too good looking. Does that make sense? It looks too accurate, and I don't like that. I like the original one, that would bust apart when you hit the button, and it was a different color. It was a lighter color, and it just seemed bigger. The handlebars were longer. The things that were as feet, like this has a stand. The other one had little feet, which were these things that would kind of rest on the ground and you could kind of move them. I always assumed that's what they were, not realizing that the thing actually floats. And there's little minutia like that just, like I said, some things just didn't register in your kid brain. Like Han Solo's pants are not made out of whale blubber, no matter what your friend says. Anyways, you put the biker scout on them and everything like that. But this one, like I said, this one looks great, but it looks too good. And it doesn't look like the toy I had. I like the toy better. Oh, I was going to say about the feet, though, is I always thought that the feet were exactly that. I didn't realize until I was putting the figure, or just a figure, on this one, that that's where his feet go. Those are the when he goes, you see him kick his foot down in the movie to go faster, or whatever he does, however that does, switches gears or whatever. He's got his feet on there. I didn't realize for the longest time as a kid, because the other figure, his feet went up like this and got locked down with this little T-bar with a spring on it. And, yeah, that's what those are. I think I might have known that as an adult, but I forgot all about it, and I didn't realize it till now. Just like the air brakes, or these little air brakes, or maybe that's how it steers. Cuts down the jet on one, puts the jet up on the other one. So there's that. And then again, talking about speeder bikes, also speaking of Star Wars in general, my son and I played, since it came out, well, he was a little young when it first came out, but we started playing Star Wars Battlefront. I also have played Battlefront with a buddy of mine. And I had Battlefront 2. I won't go get the cases, they're out in the other room, but all I gotta say is, like, if those games were out when we were kids, we would have lost our collective minds back then. Because, not saying the games are the greatest things since sliced bread, but when you go from making a bunker out of cardboard in a sandbox and reliving a movie to being able to play, almost screen accurate, perfect things on the screen, with the controller, and it's interactive and you're playing it. And then again, like I said, my son and me would do the speeder bike chase all the time. He'd always kick my ass every time. Because I drive like a grandma through there. It's like, oh no, I'm going to hit a tree. Oh no, I'd drive like a grandma. I'd try to shoot things, and he'd be full throttle the whole way. He'd crash a lot, but he'd be full throttle. He didn't care. He had that, what do you call it, that Fortnite sensibility where he just goes in guns a-blazing. Where I'm always calculating and thinking and hedging my bets, because I'm an adult, I guess, or maybe I'm just whatever. But anyways, yeah, that game, I couldn't imagine if we had it back then. Let's say on toys. First thing I did was, I just made these for the hell of it. I just printed out, I forgot the Lando and Skiff Guard for some reason, but I printed out, these are to size, or at least close enough to size, they're 6x9. These are the cards from all the Jedi, the first wave of Jedi figures. And I'll get to why I'm doing that as well. And then they have the cross-cell. I double-side printed them, put them in these little photo sleeves to protect them, and they, put the cross-cell on the back, Jedi guys on the bottom. I don't remember this. Apparently it's a prototype for a B-Wing pilot or an A-Wing pilot, and I don't know if that was on the original cross-cell or now. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the cross-cell I found, and I just assumed. Maybe it was on there, I didn't notice it as a kid. But I usually notice little things like that. But I got the Biker Scout here. Reuse Klaatu, not Woof, as the new one says. I got up there on the wall. Woof. It's Klaatu, because there's a joke. Klaatu Barada Nikto. All right. Bib Fortuna, Squid Head, Gamorrean Guard, Weequay, which, by the way, went up on pre-sale on Big Bad Toy Store right away. I'm going to try to see if wait to go and pre-sale on Amazon because it's $1 cheaper and I got free shipping. But, because Big Bad Toy Stores, they charge you more and you got to pay that shipping and stuff. So, I know it's only $4 for your whole shipment, but still, you have to pay it. I got all these guys in here. I also have 9 Num on pre-order. One of my favorites, of course. Some of the Ewoks. General Nadine, which I believe now after the Squid Head, and I'll get to this later, but the Squid Head that comes with that stupid 4-pack, of course it does. Just have to buy other figures that I don't want. Remember, I don't want figures that I didn't have as a kid. I don't have to buy these extra figures. Admiral Akbar. But I think General Nadine is the only figure now from the original first wave of 83 Jedi figures that they didn't make. They haven't made in vintage yet. I don't love vintage, but they're there, and they're relatively cheap. At least they were until the prices started going up. But I still get them periodically. I'd rather have the retro figures because they're, pretty much one-to-one creations of the original. I'm not trying not to get into all people's really like, oh, it's not perfectly like the original, and the cards are a little thinner, and the figures, the paint's slightly. God, I don't freaking care. Am I going to pay $500 for an original, or am I going to pay $11.99 for one that's close enough for government work, close enough for TV, whatever you want to say? That's 90% close enough. That's good enough for me. The other thing, this isn't original either. The other thing I printed out was I made this little booklet. Now this is the original catalog that would come in the vehicles for, again, the 83 line. And so, barring the Empire stuff that's in here, I'm trying to, and maybe not so much the little mini rigs, although the only mini rig I had was the little orange one that Klaatu was in. It's the only one I had. I don't really care to have it again. It was kind of dumb. I mean, it looked cool, but it wasn't in the movie. But, there's Jabba's Palace. But yeah, all of this stuff, the Ewok Village, I'd like to have that stuff again. But, at $90 for the vintage ATST, I paid $11.99 or $11.97. I don't know why everything was 7 cents back then, but $11.97 at Kittyland as a kid. Now I gotta pay $90. Okay. Yeah. So I got this to kind of keep inside. And so the other thing I wanted to talk about is 83 to 84. I checked yesterday, just going through. I realized that the only 84 action figures that I actually had, because I bought that set. I don't think it's in here, but there was a set that was the basically the husk of the droid factory from the original Star Wars, and then it had the little crane on it, and they re-released it in gray, and I think it was a Sears or a JCPenney's exclusive, whichever, and it came with 3 figures that were going to eventually come out in the 4th line. Nikto, the other Klaatu with the skiff guard, the whiter on. I believe it was the same character, different outfit. I always thought it was a different character. And then the, is it 88? Not 88. 8B8. I can't remember the name of the torture droid. Came out with him. I had them because I bought that. I think I got it right around Christmas, too, before 84. And, but the only thing I went to the store with my dad to Kmart and bought, when they first came out with the 84 line, because they were brand new. I remember my friend calling me up saying, hey, they got the new figures out. They're up at Kmart. I only bought 2. I bought Peach Head, Pancake Head. I guess that's the reason I guess he was just, I don't remember him even being in the movie, but I bought Peach Head. Maybe I was a sucker for the soft goods cape. I don't know. And I bought Wicket. And I've got to say, I've looked through all of the figures. And I think that's all I ever had. I didn't have the Endor Leia. I didn't have Han, Trenchcoat Han. I didn't have B-Wing pilot. I didn't have the ATSD driver. No, I had the ATSD. I just put a stormtrooper in there. Actually, I could put a Death Squad commander in there. I didn't have those figures because in '84, it was the last year I was collecting He-Man, and there was a lot of He-Man stuff came out that year, including Snake Mountain. I was balls deep into G.I. Joe at that time, so there's a lot of stuff to buy there. And Transformers had just come out. Again, I didn't get many of them that year because they were so hard to find towards the end of the year, but there's too much, came out too quick. And my interest in Star Wars really is, I was crazy interested in Star Wars. As you can tell about my stories, I was pretty crazy into it, but not for only about a year. '84, I still liked it. I still did a lot of the same things I'm talking about, and I did those in '84. But I really didn't buy a lot of the figures. And by '85, when the first Power of the Force ones came out with the coins, I remember seeing them at JK Toy Store in Winchester Mall, and I was like, do I want these? I don't know. There's other things that I want to put my money into in '85 at the time, which I'll get to '85 later. But yeah, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna get into them. I'm at 30 minutes, so I think I might go another 5 just to finish up Star Wars, because I don't want to prolong it a third day. Or sorry, Return of the Jedi. But yeah, let's just get on to what it's like I said. Darth Vader case. Eventually, I'll put figures in there, and I'll get some repro stickers. I'll make repro stickers myself. The only Black Series figures I have is I have Lando. I have the Emperor's Royal Guard. I really liked him. And then I have Luke, Leia, and Han, all from Endor. And I have Tebow, which I never had as a kid, and Akbar. But you want to talk about the most boring collection of Jedi figures is right there, because I'll say this 100 times. To me, and why I like Return of the Jedi so much is Luke was not my favorite character. Sure, I didn't like what they did to him in The Last Jedi, and sure, I liked Luke, but Luke wasn't my favorite character. I didn't know Han was cool when I was 10 years old. It took, like, teenage me or adult me or other people talking about Star Wars to tell me how cool Han Solo was. When I was a kid, I didn't realize he was cool. He was just a human. He was just some guy to me. It's like your uncle coming over, and saying, hey, what's up? Leia, she was the only girl. I was 10, so I didn't go through puberty yet. Even though, she was in the slave girl outfit in Jedi, which I appreciated that after 10. But at 10, I didn't. And I gotta say, I like the main characters. I don't dislike them. They are what they are. But for me, it was always the aliens. It was always the stormtroopers, Boba Fett, the bounty hunters, just in general. Which I have all 6 of those up there. It was, the droids. I liked everything but the humans, because humans to me at the time they're just humans. They weren't robots, they weren't aliens, they weren't monsters, they weren't cool guys in black masks, capes, or missiles on their back with jetpacks. They were just humans, and to me that was boring when I was 10 years old. It was boring when I was in kindergarten. Getting Luke Skywalker, getting Leia or Han, to me was just like, whatever. I want the Tusken Raider. I want Darth Vader. I want the Stormtrooper. I want R2-D2 and 3CPO. Well, yeah. So, So I'm hoping that they come out with the rest of the Jedi ones. I hope they come out with all of them, to tell you the truth. The Empire ones I don't really care as much about. I really just wanted the bounty hunters. But Jedi, I want them all. And again, it's 83 Jedi specifically. The 84 ones I don't care so much about. Don't really care about having the Emperor. I like the Leia Bausch because you put a helmet on her and she's a pancake head. She's a bounty hunter. She's not Leia anymore. You know, Jedi Luke's cool. Got to have Jedi Luke, but you know, he wasn't my favorite character. Uh, they don't have enough of the aliens. I've got some in the vintage. I've got Reyes. I've got Klaatu. I've got Bib Fortuna, but I don't have you know, the Gamorrean Guard. I want a Gamorrean Guard. Actually, I did have a Gamorrean Guard in the 6-inch, but I sold them because I stopped buying these. I realized I don't like the 6-inch figures. I don't like any Star Wars figures, but the Kenner line, and that's all I want. You know, the vintage is pretty much my compromise to the figures until they come out with those. If they ever do, I'll take those. But if they come out with everything, those are being sold or whatever, or packed away or whatever. I don't care. These I've already tried to sell. Nobody wants them. So, you know, I just want my old figures. I want my Darth Vader case. I want it filled with figures. I would like to have the vehicles, but, you know, we know how Hasbro is nowadays, and for some reason that's impossible to make vehicles in 2023, because somehow they lost the technology to do it, or at least to do it at normal prices. No. Alright, so 36 minutes, so let's end it there. So I know I didn't get super into the toys, but, you know, really, I don't really have a lot to talk about, you know. And again, I mean, I made it pretty clear. I just want the Kenner figures, and I've got every retro figure there, barring five of the original trilogy. I don't have any of the Mandalorian or anything like that. But the original trilogy, I have all the retros with except for 5 of the Empire figures, which is, again, Luke, Leia, Han, you know, Lando. I don't really care about the human characters as much. So there's that. Let's check my notes, make sure I've covered everything. Yeah. Oh, the only thing I wanted to say, well, closing on this, is about the Ewok Village. Ewok Village was my big Christmas present for 1983. I had the Y-Wing, according to the catalog. I had my Y-Wing. I had Jabba's Palace, which I guess I should tell that story real quick. I wanted it so bad one day, and I was with my mom at the time, after the divorce, of course, and she said we were going to go get it, but then she said we weren't going to go get it, and I was basically spent the whole day at the beach not having fun because I was all worried and stressed out whether or not I was going to get this or not by the end of the day. And then when I finally got my mom into the car to go home, she says, we're not getting it, and I got in a big argument with my mom. Couldn't get it. So she dropped me off at my dad's house. First thing I told my dad was, I just started bawling. They wouldn't get this. I wanted the blah, blah, blah. My dad knew I wanted it. So my dad said, get in the car. Let's go get it now. Go over to Kittyland. Go get it now before they close. And then I got so excited I got in this car. I shut his car door on my right foot. And, you know, didn't really cut it per se, but I smashed my foot pretty good in it. And so every time I tell my son or I tell anybody about my Jabba the Hutt playset, the day I got it at Kittyland, I also smashed my right foot in the door. And then, so yeah, the Ewok Village. So I hear rumors that they're going to do a HasLab of the Ewok Village, and I gotta say that seriously pisses me off, because, you know, I'm not gonna pay $500 for a Ewok Village, you know, and watch, they'll just make it at, they'll do the same thing they did with this. Let's just make it at the vintage scale, the scale I could care less about. Let's make the vintage scale, you know, and charge $1,000 for it, you know. No, but they'll do the Black Series. They'll make it a vintage scale and be a $500, and I'm not paying $500 for an Ewok Village. I would pay at the most $150. You know, Castle Grayskull is $80. It should be that much, but, you know, $90 for an ATST, I guess I'm going to spend at least $150. But that's about as much as I would spend for it. And I'm not going to HasLab it. I loathe HasLab. I loathe Hasbro. But more so I loathe HasLab itself, so if that's the case, that's one thing I'm not going to own. And I'll be happy with what I got so far. Again, you know, and close the chapter on that until they come around and try to milk it for more money and they actually come out with something that I want for my collection. But, alright, went almost 40 minutes. Thank everybody for their attention, staying with me the whole time. Tomorrow, I'm not sure what the subject's going to be, but I'm thinking, got a couple of things in mind. I don't think it's going to be a two-parter. I think I'll just do a Thursday on one, and then maybe a Friday on another, and close the week out. Not sure. But until then, everybody take it easy, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.